Hi, I'm David Saville. I mentor coaches and trainers to create original signature programs that generate £96,000 or $120,000 or more per year by turning their expertise and personal strengths into a focused container that delivers superhuman results for their clients. Welcome to the Superhuman Life Coach Live. Alan, thank you very much. Welcome. Nathan, welcome. I'm in the woods, as you can see. First day of training post-shoulder operation. But I didn't want to miss out on doing these lives. I decided to do 90 in a row, because I really want to make sure I'm focusing on creating more impact, and so I'm here to do that. Monica, welcome. It's clearly a good time to do that. So, today I'm going to be exploring something. Like, when it comes to coaching, right? When it comes to making a difference to someone, often it is the subtlest of changes that can have the biggest impact. It often isn't anything new, it isn't anything radical in the concept, but it is radical in the insight. Sometimes, as a coach, you will know this, that sometimes the client just cannot see something that's just slightly to the side of where they're living. So I'm going to be exploring one of those things right now that a lot of coaches will be experiencing. And that is to do with how you prepare your clients for the work you're doing together. Like, what are they expecting to happen through your work? Often clients will have very specific outcomes that they want to achieve, and a coach will jump in to achieve those specific outcomes. Now, unfortunately, clients tend to not have grandiose expectations. They tend to look just beyond where they are. Like the corporate ladder is a good example. It's very a tiered structure, and they can see the structure. They know where they are on that ladder, and they know what they have to do to rise up it. And yet, it's possible. I've worked with people. You can skip multiple rungs if you approach it very differently. And that's, of course, just in the work concept, let alone the entirety of the beauty of life that we get to explore when we work with our clients. So one of the things that is often missed or not used well is the setting of strong, big, huge, exaggerated expectations for what's possible to happen. Obviously over the time that you've agreed to work together, but in every single interaction you have, there's too much limited expectations of what's possible. What's that? I like you never point the finger to us, just keeping your fingers together. Huh? Okay, thank you very much. I'm not wagging my finger at you because you've done something wrong. That's like a teacher would do when I was at school a lot. I was in detention a lot at school. I'd get a lot of wagged fingers pointed at me. Maybe that's why I don't do it. But it's very important. It's not just important for them, actually, it's very important for us too. So about 5 years ago, this was really brought into my awareness, the importance of this. So 5 years ago, I had a full-time job, one I've been in for 17 years, right? I'd never even gone for an interview elsewhere because I didn't think I could get anything. But I decided months before, I'm going to create a better life. I'd already had great coaching. I was like, this is my path. I want to become, in fact, world class was my decision back in 2013. I want to become world class. I want to do whatever the hell it takes. And sometimes during 2014, I was working towards that. And I'd done some good work. So things were changing for my clients, but it wasn't world shaking. It wasn't radical enough. And so I came up with a project which I focused on, which was about changing 100 lives. The idea didn't come from me, it came from the world of the prosperous coach, but it is a really simple idea to have 100 conversations with people where you focus on changing their life. Now, so I took it so literally, it was called Change 100 Lives, is what it was called. But what it meant was that immediately within the title, it raises my own expectations. It raised the expectations for what was possible. And I immediately started to notice the difference. So one client in particular stands out because this was one of the very early days. It blew me away actually what was possible. So we got on this call, this Change 100 Life call. It's just a single call, by the way. That's all it was. The project was a single call per person, 100 people. On this first call, she'd presented the problem, which was she was very successful in her career. She was in her 30s. She'd had a boyfriend. She had a loving family, lovely friends. Everything seemed to be wonderful. In fact, she's skyrocketing in her life, seemingly, and yet she had this sadness within her. Something didn't feel right. and she didn't know why. She's like, why isn't she happy? The boyfriend, she said, was a great guy. She's just, felt grateful to be with him, but something's not right. Her friendships, when she's with them, something was missing. In her work, she loved her work, and when she was dedicated and focused, it was wonderful. But actually, even that, it was being eroded by this sense of sadness, this sense of something being wrong, and she didn't know what it was. So that was what she brought to the conversation, and we got to explore that. Now, remember, we'd set the expectation strongly. It wasn't just in the name, it was in the way I prepared her as well, and the way I prepared myself. I got her to agree to certain things so that she would come prepared and ready. I had to agree to certain things myself, to be able to create this opportunity. So we both came to it with these strong expectations for something amazing could occur. And then we got to explore what was going on. And we were very much focused on the present and what's going wrong. And then she shared something. And it was just like one of those off-the-cuff comments. And I explored that with her. And what it turned out, that she'd had a chronic illness since she was a young child. And this is something that's going to be with her for her entire life. There's nothing she can do about it. It's just there with her. Now, at a very young age, people started to treat her differently. So they wouldn't let her do sports. They'd keep her home from school. She started to be excluded. We're talking about, I think she was about 4 or 5 when this was happening. And at that young age, she made a decision. And that decision was to keep it private. Obviously, there's certain realities to the illness, but she would make excuses, pretend it was something else, So from 4 or 5 years old, she made this decision. And many years later, her boyfriend, her family, apart from her parents, didn't know. Her colleagues had no idea. And it was something that could have affected her career as well. So she'd already got to this point of success now. But for 20, 30 years, she had been holding in this huge part of her that every single day she wakes up with this problem. Every day she has to battle this illness. There's a lot she had to do every single day that no one had a clue about. And what we discovered through that, one, it was her sharing it for the first time with me, that she hadn't spoken about it in decades, except with her doctor. The other thing was that we connected to the fact that, yes, when she was younger, it stopped people excluding her. She was playing sports. She went to school. She achieved amazing things, in her life. She had great friends, obviously boyfriends over the years, so it didn't affect her life in any way. And she would have had to work damn hard as well. She'd have had to put in way more effort than you and I would, who do not have something that's suppressing us deep under the surface. But what occurred to us during this, what occurred to me, obviously, and I shared this with her, is that she doesn't need that any longer. She's already got everything she wants in life. She needs to start releasing that. And the fact that she's not a child anymore, right? People don't determine her life or what she can do anymore. She gets to decide that. And the difference within her, the transcendence through that single, I think it was about 90 minutes that we spent together, she was liberated and released. Now, often in a conversation, that can happen, right? People have amazing transformations within a session, but it's not until afterwards you find out if it's stuck or when they actually get into their lives, what actually happened. She proceeded to go and start telling her boyfriend, one of the first things, going to work and tell them. And not because for any other reason, except that it was a barrier to connection. It was a barrier to things. A part of the problem it discovered was because she was holding this in, not only was she very alone, but it was creating disconnection with the people in her lives, because she just had to disappear sometimes and they didn't know why. So what emerged from that single session was a more complete human being. And it was liberating for her. And years later, actually, I connected with her again about 18 months ago, I think it was. Her life is so radically different. She's still in love with her life. She has let go of all of that. That thing she had inside of her was burned out from that single session, that single moment. Something that had been with her for years that she didn't know what was wrong was gone. Why was that possible? It was possible for several reasons, of course, the attention during the session, but much more important than that. And in fact, often far more important than what happens in the session is how you prepare someone for it, was the expectation of extraordinary. And so immediately I recommend that you, in every single client that you have, every single session, you go to it with an expectation of something extraordinary to happen. And don't just keep it secret. Make sure you bring your client in on that possibility. Because if you do that, if both your expectations meeting, means you're likely to get something extraordinary happening and continuing to, throughout every single interaction that you have. In fact, I'll just share something else very quickly actually. When this was also brought home was, I've run about a dozen retreats with different friends. And one of them years ago, what we discovered was that when we did our very first one, we had to drive people around. So we'd do some deep work, and then they'd be in the car with us, and the conversations would inevitably go to ordinary conversation, because that's what people do. And so what that did, what we noticed it do, it's like the impact of what was happening was being reduced and watered down. And being in our company or having those ordinary conversations reduced that impact too. So what we upgraded from then was that if we were together with them, the only conversations we would have would be transformational ones that could change their lives, that could make the biggest difference to them. Insights, the experiences, the things that could radically change who they are, how they're being, and their entire experience of life. That's the only conversations we had. When we did that, and we had other people drive people around, or we had them be silent actually, which was another one, so they could actually take in, the impact of what's been going on. That also radically improved their interactions, what they were able to get from every single experience, because it was no longer diluted and watered down. It was a much purer, much more impactful experience. So I recommend you immediately do that. Every single message, conversation, live interaction, adventure, however it is that you work with your clients, if you're even in the training room, set strong intentions before, set strong intentions at the start, and have everyone there prepared for something amazing to happen. And just notice how much more actually begins to happen. Thank you for the loves, and thank you for being here and joining me in this forest setting. Thank you. And the next Superhuman Live will be tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you there, where I'm continuing to explore. It's a series of 5 particularly of how you can immediately amplify the impact you're having with clients. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you on the next Superhuman Life Coach Live. Take care. You're welcome, Monica. You're very welcome. Thank you.